Good evening, everyone. Imagine you've just received your exam grade. It's an 82. Is that good? Bad? You honestly don't know. So what do? Almost reflexively, you turn to the person next to you and ask, "What did you get?" That tiny, universal question is the gateway into one of the most powerful and relentless forces shaping your self-worth: social comparison. Social comparison is the process of evaluating ourselves by measuring ourselves against others. It is especially common when objective standards are unavailable. After all, an 82 is just a number until you know what everyone else got. The theory rests on three core premises. First, humans have a fundamental drive to evaluate their own opinions and abilities. We need to know where we stand. Second, in the absence of objective yardsticks, we turn to other people as our measuring sticks. And third, we tend to compare ourselves to others who are similar to us because only a fair comparison yields meaningful information. Let's see how this plays out in the most ordinary of settings. Samson and Louisa are in the same introduction to psychology class. Both studied hard. After the midterm, Samson asks Louisa, "What did you get?" She got an 82. Another classmate, Mark, got an 85. Samson instantly feels a quiet wave of relief. He used Louisa, a peer with similar background and study habits, as a measuring stick. The comparison feels legitimate. He can accurately evaluate his own performance. "I'm above average for this group," and adjust his efforts accordingly. Had he compared himself to a PhD student, he would feel crushed. Had he compared himself to someone who didn't study at all, he might get overconfident. Similar comparison is the gold standard for honest self-assessment. But life is not always about honest self-assessment. Often we look upward to those who are doing better than us. Upward comparison is a psychological double-edged sword. It can threaten our self-esteem and make us feel inadequate. But, as research by Van de Ven in 2015 showed, it can also be deeply inspiring and motivate self-improvement if we believe we can also achieve that level. Consider Sophia, a first-year university student in a competitive biology program. After midterms, she compares her solid B to the A+ of a classmate, Mia, who seems to excel effortlessly. Sophia feels crushed. "Mia is naturally brilliant. I don't have that kind of brain. I don't belong here." Her self-esteem dips, and she avoids study groups for fear of looking stupid. Weeks later, Sophia is paired with Mia for a lab project. To her surprise, she discovers Mia is not coasting on natural genius. Mia reviews every lecture note 3 times, uses a systematic flashcard method, and visits the professor every single week. She shares her system with Sophia, saying, "Honestly, I work like a maniac. You can totally do this too, it's just a process." Suddenly, the upward comparison feels different. Sophia's internal narrative shifts from "I'm not as smart as her" to "I haven't been studying as strategically as her, and I can change that." Her motivation surges. The comparison shifted from a self-esteem blow to a source of inspiration precisely because attainability became apparent. The key is not whether the other person is better, but whether we believe their success is replicable. Then there is downward comparison, the ego's quick fix. Mark, from that same psychology class, is struggling with his new workout routine. He feels weak and out of shape at the gym. While struggling to lift a weight, he glances over and sees a new person on the treadmill who is visibly out of breath and can only jog for 2 minutes before stopping. Mark thinks, "Well, at least I can run for 15 minutes without dying. I'm actually doing okay." Comparing himself to someone worse off gives his ego a temporary boost, making him feel more competent and perhaps motivating him to finish his workout. Downward comparison typically makes us feel good about ourselves, boosts self-evaluations, and enhances well-being, at least in the short term. But what happens when the comparison involves someone we know and the domain is deeply personal? The effect of comparison depends heavily on how relevant the trait is to our self-schema. If a friend excels in an area unimportant to us, we can bask in their reflected glory. If that same excellence is central to our identity, their success may threaten our very sense of self. Daniel completes his first marathon, a long-held personal goal. At work on Monday, two colleagues hear the news. Priya, a gardener and cook, has no athletic dimension to her self-concept at all. She values her green thumb and her family life. She has never run a kilometer. When she hears about Daniel's marathon, she is effusive. "That's incredible! I'm so impressed to even know someone with that kind of discipline." She tells her dinner party guests about Daniel's achievement, feeling genuine pride by association. The domain is irrelevant to her identity, so she freely basks in the reflected glory. Tom, on the other hand, identifies as a runner. He runs 10K races, follows running blogs, and talks about his personal bests constantly. When he hears Daniel ran a full marathon, something he has secretly wanted but never managed, he feels a surge of inadequacy. He mutters, "Marathons are bad for your knees anyway," and becomes distant. Because running is central to Tom's self-schema, Daniel's success threatens his own identity as the runner in the office. The same accomplishment triggers basking in Priya and threat in Tom. When the threat is too great, we don't just feel bad. We actively manage our self-evaluation by downplaying similarity to high achievers or distancing from them entirely. Let me introduce you to Louisa and Elena. Both are 28-year-old graphic designers at the same marketing firm. They started on the same day, share clients, similar project loads, the same title. Then Elena begins to soar. One of her campaigns goes viral. Industry blogs feature it. The CEO mentions her in an all-hands meeting. She is pulled into high-priority projects. Louisa watches this happen. A colleague stops by and says, "Hey, isn't it amazing what Elena's doing? You two started together, you must feel so proud of your work buddy." Louisa's response comes out automatically. "Well, Elena went to that fancy art school in Rhode Island. She had connections before she even got here. I came up through community college and just worked my way up." Totally different paths, really. Louisa cannot admit similarity. If she says, "We're the same," then Elena's success becomes a measuring stick for her own career. The math is brutal, same start, same role, different outcomes. So Louisa rewrites the story. The fancy art school becomes the explanation. The distance protects her self-worth. Months pass. Elena's star keeps rising. She invites the team to casual Friday drinks. Louisa gets the invite but doesn't go. Once, twice, a third time not even acknowledged. She isn't consciously cruel, she is protecting herself. Being around Elena means constant reminders of the gap. So she creates space, physical distance to match the psychological distance she has already built. At the end of year review, Louisa's is solid, Elena's is outstanding. When Elena warmly offers to grab coffee, Louisa looks away. "Busy today?" "Maybe some other time." She cannot risk connection because connection would mean acknowledging Elena as a peer. And if Elena is a peer, then Louisa must face the gap. Better to keep her distant. Keep her safe. This strategic distancing reveals a deeper truth. We are not passive recipients of comparison. We are active architects, constantly reshaping who counts as our reference group to protect our self-esteem. And nowhere is this more striking than in one of the most famous findings in social comparison research. Bronze medalists are often happier than silver medalists. Let me take you to the National Young Pianist Competition. Marcus, 17, Juilliard trained since age 8, expected to win gold. Jasmine, 19, community college student, shares a practice room with her younger brother, works part-time at a cafe, almost didn't enter because of the entry fee. The results: Marcus takes silver. Jasmine takes bronze. For Marcus, the internal world collapses. His brain latches onto a single thing, the gap. I hit every note perfectly. What did they see in them that they didn't see in me? If that one judge had given me one more point, he spends the next hour dissecting every microsecond of his performance. He barely acknowledges his silver medal. He is already Googling how to win next year while standing on the podium. In the photo, his smile doesn't reach his eyes. He is looking at the gold medalist's medal trapped in what if. For Jasmine, the announcer reads her name and her hands fly to her mouth. Tears stream down her face. As she walks to the stage, her brain races. 4th place gets nothing. 5th place gets nothing. There were 200 applicants. So many people better than me who choked. But I'm here. I'm on the podium. She thinks about her brother, her cafe customers who told her good luck, the 4th place finisher sitting in the audience watching her walk up. In the photo, Jasmine is beaming, holding her bronze medal up to the camera, kissing it. She almost didn't enter. She almost couldn't afford the fee. She almost got 4th. But she didn't. She won. Same podium. Same achievement tier. Completely different mental math. Marcus, the silver medalist, compares upward to one person, and the tiny gap makes the loss feel enormous. Jasmine, the bronze medalist, compares downward to everyone who didn't medal, and the gap from 4th place feels like a chasm. The reference group is everything. Our reference group also allows us to borrow glory rather than feel diminished by it. This is burgeoning, basking in reflected glory. We associate ourselves with successful groups, saying we won to boost our self-esteem without having contributed anything. Carlos, a high school history teacher, grew up in a working-class neighborhood. His childhood best friend David got a basketball scholarship, played professionally in Europe for a decade, and returned home a local hero. At the barber shop, Carlos hears younger guys talking about David's highlights. Without thinking, he says, "Yeah, that's my boy. We grew up together. Same block. Same courts. I knew him before he was anybody." In the classroom, his students find out and see him differently. He is no longer just the guy who grades their tests, he is connected to something successful. When David waves at him from the court during a charity game, Carlos waves back, aware that people are watching, glowing. But burgeoning can backfire. After the game, a reporter asks Carlos about his own life. "What do you do now?" Carlos pauses. "I'm a teacher. High school history." The reporter follows. "Do you ever think about what might have been? If you'd had David's opportunities?" Suddenly the comparison is direct. The borrowed glory evaporates, and Carlos is left standing in its shadow. He changes the subject quickly. The same dynamic plays out in families. Priya, 22, still job hunting, has a cousin the same age just accepted to Stanford Medical School. At a family gathering, her mother pulls her aside. "Stand next to her for the photo. Let people see you together." Later, Mom tells friends, "Our family produces such achievers." She is burgeoning, borrowing her niece's success to project family achievement. Priya, meanwhile, feels complicated, happy for her cousin but aware she is being used as a prop in someone else's reflected glory. So what do we take from all this? First, know that you are constantly, often unconsciously, comparing. The question is not whether you compare, but to whom and with what effect. Second, recognize when upward comparison is inspiring you versus demoralizing you. The difference often lies in whether you believe the gap can be closed. Third, be aware of the stories you tell yourself about why others succeed. If you attribute their success to fixed traits, you will feel threatened. If you see it as the product of learnable behaviors, you can be inspired. Finally, notice when you are distancing yourself from high achievers or borrowing their light. Both are ways of managing self-esteem, but neither changes reality. The ultimate freedom is not needing to rewrite the scoreboard. It is being able to stand next to someone more successful and still know exactly who you are. Thank you.